shocked to discover how, studying hundreds of cases, two things shocked him that we all know. First, three things basically. First, how much more wide these cases are than we think. Like, did you read recently in Ireland, it was disclosed that only in Ireland we are talking about thousands, probably ten of thousands of cases. So that my friends told me from Dublin that now it's already, so I was told, maybe they exaggerate, already, you know, this usual advice of a mother when you send a small kid to the store, don't talk to strangers, no? Nowadays, especially the stranger is a priest, no, don't. And I'm not making fun of the Irish here. I mean, in my country it's the same. And so the second thing.
So just before you, actually, they found that 7 in 10 paedophilia charged claims against priests in Ireland are wrong.
Are wrong?
Yeah, 7 in 10.
Are wrong?
It's a massive perpetuated fantasy.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
It just hasn't happened. It just didn't happen. So many people are making these claims. None of them have. 7 out of 10. Very few of them have actually been validated, and people have then gone back and said no. Actually,
okay, I must admit I don't know this. Yeah. I'm not talking about Ireland. What I'm talking is that, for example, in my country, there are many which are true, but nonetheless, what is so shocking, and this was tested at least in my country and in Poland. The shocking thing is how the church reacted in a totally protective way. For example, there was a case in Slovenia where a priest was caught raping serially small kids. The kids' parents were invited to visit a bishop who told them if they make this public they will commit a mortal sin, and the priest was simply displaced to another church, where he did it again, displaced to... So this absolutely protective attitude. The third thing, Gary Willis is the name of the guy, this American Catholic writer.
Gary Wills.
Gary Willis, yeah. That he showed how the way they do it to seduce children it's not simply that they do it in contrast with their religion. How they used all the religious, they make it part of the religious ritual to do it. Now, what you said about fantasy and so on, I tend to agree generally with you. Generally in the sense that I know that it's fashionable in a politically correct way to claim generally about pedophilia or incest and so on, Some people even claim they go to the end that like 70-80% of girls are really molested by their fathers and so on and so on. No, I don't buy that, and I don't buy that as a good Freudian. I think that fantasy is here more fundamental. And of course, the moment you say this, you say something horrible which is prohibited from the politically correct standpoint. You raise an extremely obscure, difficult question. The question of libidinal complicity of the victim. And this is prohibited. And my position here, I wonder to provoke you, if you would agree, is a radical one. Let's say believe me, I'm not able to do it, but I like to be tasteless. And if I'm tasteless, I should be at least honest enough to be tasteless against myself. Let us say that I were to rape a woman. And let us say that my excuse were to be, but she really gave me signals she really wanted it. Now you have three ways to react to this. The first would be the vulgar male chauvinist. Oh, maybe there is a moment of truth, blah, blah, blah. No? Of course, we all reject this. I'm the first to. Then there is the second, usually feminist answer, which goes to say that this is not true, I projected it into the woman, and even if it is partially true, it is simply that the woman, the victim, was to such an extent the victim of patriarchal ideology that she internalized this male, this identification with the aggressor to be mistreated and so on and so on. I also, here, I draw the line, disagree with this. My position is a much more radical one. My position is a very simple and radical one. why shouldn't women have the right to dream about being slightly brutally mistreated and so on? This gives you, as a man, absolutely no right to act on it. I claim, and I'm not bluffing here, I was reading some reports on rapes in ex-Yugoslavia and other rapes where, I wrote about this and I tried to provoke you if you agree or not, and I spoke with some psychologists, so I'm at least not totally bluffing here. Let's make a stupid, simplified, I know things are much more complex, mental experiment. Let's take two types of women. One more autonomous, aggressive one, the one more passive, with secret dreams about being dominated by men. Let's say that they are both raped. You know what's the paradox? The paradox is the one whose fantasy is realized by the rape will be hurt much more than the other one. So it's not that it justifies, it makes it even worse. Because that's the ABC lesson of psychoanalysis. Your innermost fantasies are the most touchy and dangerous point of your life is if your innermost fantasies are brutally imposed onto you from the outside. It's not that, oh my God, I got what I want. This can be a nightmare, this can trigger a suicidal crisis and so on. So my point would have been that if you claim that it's not true that women have these passive masochistic fantasies and that if they have them, it's just that they internalize male ideology, you blame women too much. It may appear that you try to redeem women, but imagine a woman who had these fantasies. First, you make her feel guilty, as if you are some kind of subordinate, dominated by male ideology. If you claim that woman in herself cannot have this fantasy, you are already, for me, way too close to blaming the victim, and so on and so on. I mean, my position would have been that if a woman, and why shouldn't? Fuck it. Fantasies are dirty things. Fantasies are not nice, correct things. Fantasies are always, by definition, embarrassing, dirty, and so on. That's the basic lesson of psychoanalysis. Fantasy is not, oh, Bambi, and so on. In fantasy, the Bambi screws you and you lick his testicles or whatever. Let's not go into it, no? So, again, there is nothing more humiliating than the innermost fantasy imposed on you. So, again, my solution is that in no way should the fact that I'm honest, as a rapist, that I saw that maybe the woman I want to rape entertains this fantasy. This in no way, not only does it not justify, it makes it even worse, if anything. I'm here for even, I don't have any problems with, as you already know, with death penalty and so on, or whatever, no? So, because this is why, maybe you know it, but I will repeat it. This is how I account for the utter humiliation of the woman in that most terrifying and depressing scene from, you probably saw it, and if you saw the movie, you definitely remember it, from David Lynch's Wild at Heart. You remember when Daniel Defoe harasses Laura Dern, say fuck me. He's not openly violent, just invading her private space. And desperate, but then out of despair, but also a little bit aroused, he finally says, fuck me, and you remember what he does then. He simply, he treats it as a true, authentic offer. He steps back and says, oh, thanks for the offer, but today, and in a way, of course, I'm not now downplaying real rape, but in a way one can say at the level of psychological humiliation, this is even more humiliating for her. Because in a way her fantasy is thrown back at her. That's so, you see, in this sense, I think we should not be afraid. We should cross this taboo. We should not be afraid to admit this